Welcome to the April 23rd school board meeting. This meeting is now in session. This meeting is being conducted by electronic communications using Microsoft Teams due to the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. And we will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And I believe a flag will be coming on the screen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We're now at announcements. On May 5th, there will be a budget work session from 5 to 7 p.m. and a public hearing on the school board's proposed budget at 7 p.m. We hope to be able to conduct both meetings virtually, but we ask that you please watch for updates on the APS website for more details as we get closer to that date. I also want to take the opportunity to share some organizational announcements. As we are relying more on electronic communications during the pandemic, I would like to take the opportunity to explain how the board handles the messages we receive and also provide an update on public comments. So all written messages received at the school board are considered part of the public record and are subject to the requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, or VFOIA, FOIA. Most of these messages are stored electronically in an online repository IQ that can be fully accessed by all board members. Board office staff send regular updates to the board summarizing messages that have been received. Comments provided on a board meeting agenda item or at a public hearing, whether provided in writing or in person, are entered into the public record and are also subject to FOIA. A copy of all written comments received for a board meeting agenda item or at a public hearing are filed with the official meeting documents, and in-person remarks are summarized in the meeting minutes. So because we are not taking public comment at this time, I wanted to share that information with you so that you knew when you email us and when you email school.board@apsva.us how your messages are part of the record. And when they are shared to be a comment on an agenda item or requested to be part of the public hearing, not only are they part of the public record, but they will also go into the official meeting documents. So the board, as I have shared, we are not accepting public comments tonight, but we are finalizing plans to allow public participation in future meetings. And until the new plan is in place, the following options are available to share your thoughts with the board. You can call the school board office at 703-228-6015 and leave your comments on agenda items in a voicemail that will be shared with the board. Please reference the agenda item and include your name. If you prefer to comment on an agenda item in writing, we ask that you please send your messages to school.board@apsva.us, and please state in the subject line that your message is being submitted for the public record of the specific agenda item. Regarding the May 5th public hearing, there will also be a comment form available on our webpage for submitting remarks that if you use this form, this will acknowledge and confirm that these are actual remarks for the public hearing and will be recorded as such. But we are hoping to have that public hearing virtually, and if not, if we're not able to do so at that time, we will then have a similar setup that we did this past Tuesday. I'm happy to announce that we are going to be holding virtual open office hours this coming Monday. It's our first virtual open office hours, and Ms. Van Doren will host the first virtual open office hours from 5 to 7 p.m. in an open meeting using Microsoft Teams. A link to join the virtual meeting will be posted on the open office hours webpage on Monday morning. Visitors will be accepted into the meeting as they join, and you will have a 2 to 3 minute opportunity to share your comments and concerns with Ms. Van Doren. If you prefer a private conversation with Ms. Van Doren, please call 703-228-6015 or email school.board@apsva.us and include your name, phone number, and reference open office hours, and she will contact you at her earliest availability. Open office hours will continue through June 15th, and the schedule is posted on the webpage. Each board member will be working with our school board office staff to ensure communication on how they will be holding their open office hours is put out there in a timely and in a way that our constituents can understand how we will each be operating our virtual open office hours. So that's the update on communications for us this evening. I also wanted to provide a superintendent search update, as I've done at every single board meeting except one, which was right after our pandemic emergency closure. But we are still on track to appoint a new superintendent in May. And so now I'm going to open it up to my other colleagues for any announcements they may have. And I will just call each one by name as we are in this virtual setting. Ms. Van Doren, do you have any comments or announcements?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the Washington Liberty staff for sneaking around and putting signs up in everybody's lawn. When I went out for my morning walk, I got to see that, and it was lovely, and I know much appreciated. It was extremely thoughtful, and I know there are lots of plans that are going on with all the schools to determine exactly how they are going to honor their graduates. So I love to see those. Then I also wanted to mention, connected to your comments, Ms. Talento, that the board members have been returning phone calls that have been left on our phone line, and we've been reading everybody's emails that come to us. But I wanted to just summarize a couple of points that I've made in those phone calls. Even though we're doing all of this work virtually, the first person that every student and parent should speak with or connect with if they have an issue or a problem or a concern is with the teacher, with their child's teacher. And then if there is not resolution to that or they feel they need more help, they should be going to the principal. And I think that that's very helpful because, and I'll go over this again in open office hours, when people come to the board, we end up sharing that information with the superintendent, and then it goes back to the principal and to the teacher. So there's really a circle there. So if parents remember that even though teachers and principals are at home, they're still working and they're still attending and they're still trying to address everybody's needs. So I just wanted to reinforce that, and I think everybody's going to constantly be reinforcing that. So I wanted to get ready for that before open office hours on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Doren. Mr. Goldstein, do you have any comments or announcements?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Can you see me?
Yes.
You didn't say that with the same amount of enthusiasm.
I can hear you, Mr. Goldstein.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to note that it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and I want to offer congratulations to all of our people of the year, the teachers of the year in each of the schools, the support staff of the year, the teacher of the year, and the principal of the year. And I know the superintendent's going to go into a little bit more detail on this during her remarks, but I just wanted to offer my own thank yous for, you know, the incredible hard work and dedication and professionalism that these people and all of their colleagues show every day to our students. And that's why we are in, you know, such good stead as a high quality and enviable school system. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Dr. Kennan, do you have any announcements or comments?
I think my colleagues hit on a couple of important points. Unfortunately, my only addition would be that I do know that there have been in the APS community network some people who've come down with the virus and at least one death this week. Please continue to stay safe, everyone. Practice all the things that we've talked about many times. But again, let's all be good to each other to the extent we can and take care of yourselves, and especially the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennan, and thank you for your important comments. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any comments or announcements this evening?
Thank you. I want to echo the comments made by my colleagues. I also want to remind the community that we are giving out food, and want to share that we're doing it in a social, while recognizing and meeting on social distancing. I want to remind people that we're feeding children from 2 to 18 who come out. So please make use of that, of our 7 feeding sites. I'm sure that Ms. Johnson will talk more about that. And if people do need additional help, they can reach out to the county at 703-228-1300. Just reach out to the county. They will just ask you for proof that you live in Arlington. That's all they'll ask you. And they can help people who have needs, whether it's food or rental or any other assistance. They have a network set up to help people with needs. So please reach out to the county. And again, that number is 703-228-1300. We know that there are very many needs during this time, and we are working together with the county to help support our community. So just want to remind everyone of some of the supports that we're offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. And I actually do have a small announcement from one of my liaisons, Thomas Jefferson. I want to share that the Jefferson Garden Group is ramping up production this year as a victory garden effort to help supply fresh vegetables to Arlington food pantries that are overwhelmed with the COVID-19 support. And you can read more about the garden at jeffersongarden.org. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our PTAs. I know that many of them are starting to have virtual meetings, and I really appreciate the hard work that they're doing to continue to keep their community organized and united and working together through these difficult times. And I want to thank all of my colleagues for their comments and announcements. And I echo much of what was said. So we will now hear the interim superintendent's announcements and updates. And Ms. Johnson is with us this evening. Ms. Johnson, can we turn it over to you?
Yes, indeed. Good evening, Madam Chair and school board members. I want to provide you with superintendent's updates at this time. So I'd like to be able to start with, first and foremost, is to acknowledge and congratulate Campbell Elementary School Principal Maureen Nesselrode and Arlington Career Center Chef Renee Randolph. I want to also announce that on Monday, we acknowledge these individuals on our website. I'm also very proud to honor 36 Teachers of the Year representing individual schools. Our 7 outstanding support employees of the year who represent all areas of the school division are A Scale, Aquatia Mitchell, Special Education Assistant, Oak Ridge Elementary. C Scale, Sandra Doyle, Food Service, Barcroft Elementary School. D Scale, Alethea Fields, School Bus Driver Attendant, Transportation Services. E Scale, Hildy Pardo, Distant Learning Production Specialist, Information Services. G Scale, Nadia Vargas, Registrar at Claremont Elementary School. M Scale, Todd McDaniel, he's the custodian at Arlington Traditional School. And X Scale, Kia Martin, Extended Day Supervisor, Williamsburg Middle School. I'm really excited to share this great news with our entire school division and the community. The names of all the nominees and school-based teachers of the year are listed on our website. This is just one of our ways we will be celebrating these employees. School and community relations will continue to highlight these employees throughout the month of April and May across social media. I also want to mention that it is an honor to celebrate the 36 Teachers of the Year representing individual schools. We started our virtual celebration of excellence this week to share videos of these outstanding teachers to recognize their many contributions. On the slide, you see photos of Teachers of the Year honorees that we are recognizing this week and will continue next week across social media. So if you look at the top row from left to right, you see Shelley Gallion, Oak Ridge Elementary School, Dan Bowles, Jamestown Elementary School, and Leslie Argueta, Ashlawn Elementary School. And then on the bottom row from left to right, we have Wayne Henrico, Glebe Elementary School, Nicole Campbell, Campbell Elementary School, and Mike Gisto, Nottingham Elementary School. We will continue the celebration throughout May. During the week of May the 4th, we're going to honor all teachers sharing videos using hashtag #ThanksAPSTeachers. And we encourage everyone to get involved. Our teachers are working very hard at this time and are missing their students while learning to teach in a whole new format that's under the continuous learning plan. I want us all to be acknowledging our teachers as we are so proud of the teaching force and all that they are doing and extremely appreciative. So thank you to all APS teachers. I will now turn it over so that our emergency manager, Zach Pope, can speak to COVID-19.
Thank you, Interim Superintendent Ms. Johnson, and thank you, School Board. We provided an update on this last week, and there are no major changes to our current grab-and-go meal service at this time. However, I do want to highlight again that we continue to serve meals out of the 7 locations listed on the slide present from 11 to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, and families can come to the site that's most convenient to them. I want to take a moment to reinforce that all of the safety procedures are in place at each site, not only to protect our food service staff and volunteers who help distribute this food, but for our families and students who continue to access these sites. During our normal daily distribution, we don't see lines, and we're not continuing to see lines at our sites. And when there are a few families arriving at the site at the same time, we're having staff manage that so 6-foot appropriate distances are maintained during pickup. Additionally, volunteers and food services staff are wearing gloves and masks as safety precautions, and food is set out so there's no direct contact and to follow social distancing public health guidelines. As a reminder, and to echo what Ms. O'Grady has already shared, if you're unable to pick up food, you may arrange in advance for a designee to pick up those meals. The parent or guardian needs to email or call food service in advance to designate the volunteer and provide name, school, and student IDs of the students. The county line of 703-228-1300 also is available to assist families in connecting to other food insecurity sources. In terms of numbers, as of yesterday, 89,951 meals have been served since our start date of March 16th to a total of 26,228 families. We're continuing to evaluate plans for food distribution through the remainder of the year, and those plans are being developed based on our state and federal guidance and will be communicated when we finalize those. We're continuing to work with the Arlington County government to meet the needs of families and support those that we can. We want to thank school PTAs, community partners, nonprofit organizations, and businesses who are continuing to support our families through meal distributions and food drives as well. And restaurants continue to provide community supports, and those are listed on our website under the COVID-19 section of food services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pope, and also thank you to all the volunteers and staff that are helping out from APS. I would now like to have Bridget Loft, our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, to provide us an update on our continuous learning plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I provided a lengthy update on the continuous learning plans last week, and we continue to move forward. We reflect on the feedback we're getting, and we work closely with administrators and staff to support families and to make adjustments where necessary. We did release a new component of the pre-K to 2 learning plan today, so I wanted to share an update on that. To supplement the instructional resources within the K-2 packet and in conjunction with direct outreach by teachers, we are broadcasting a series of At Home with APS videos designed to bring teacher-led instruction into the homes of APS students. The first videos were released today, including an early literacy video and a social emotional learning video. The early literacy instruction video includes phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, reading, and writing, and family literacy tips that are also provided to support families as they extend literacy instruction into their daily routines. These videos are accessible via Comcast AETV channel 70 and 1090 HD and Verizon Fios AETV channel 41, and they'll also be shared online via YouTube and Vimeo. Closed captioning is available and on YouTube. The At Home with APS is scheduled to work alongside other educational programming developed at the state and local level. The K2 episode is repeated throughout the day for accessibility. I also highly recommend that parents and community members listen to episode 32 of What's Up APS podcast, which features Kelly Heiner, our interim supervisor of the Arlington Tiered System of Support, also known as ATSS, Donna McConnell, our early childhood and elementary English language arts teacher specialist, and Christine Shappy, our elementary math specialist, as they share information about the pre-K to second grade instructional packages, which include the paper instructional resources, dynamic teacher engagement with students, and the At Home with APS videos. Well, we've talked about what's going on with our youngest students. I'd also like to share some information or clarify some information as we've gotten questions regarding our secondary students surrounding the introduction of new content in secondary sequential courses. So I want to emphasize that a sequential course for secondary students means that these are courses that build from one level to the next. That would be, for an example, a student enrolled in Spanish 2 would have been enrolled in Spanish 1 this year, and then they'd enroll in Spanish 2 next year. And so that student who was enrolled in Spanish 1 this year and then will be in Spanish 2 next year will spend September focusing on the key concepts from the fourth quarter of Spanish 1. So in contrast, students who were enrolled in biology this school year would not review those fourth quarter biology standards in their chemistry course in September because biology and chemistry are not considered sequential courses. And this is just a part of our larger commitment to ensuring the equity of access to new learning for all of our students. Our elementary teachers will also engage in introducing the fourth quarter power standards in September. Our teachers will work on revising pacing guidelines to ensure that the compacted curriculum will address the essential learning from October through June. So thank you for letting me share that information, and I'll give it back to you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Loss, and I want to thank your team as well for continuing to work and reflect on the information we receive and being really methodical and strategic about our plan and how it's rolled out. Before I turn this over to Mr. Adusumili, I want to share some key points pertaining to technology with a focus on devices and connectivity. And I want to share this because superintendents meet twice a week to talk about COVID-related matters. Primarily, we're focusing on 3 areas: the continuing continuity of learning, the food distribution, and technology. Technology has become an area of key focus, specifically around the 2 areas that I mentioned with connectivity as well as ensuring that students have devices. So that is work that continues, and APS has been averaging over 12,000 simultaneous student connections at any point during a given day. So I will let Mr. Asumili speak to what you see on the slide, but I first want to acknowledge the work of his team that has been going on since the closure and actually continues, and we look forward to building our capacity in terms of that connectivity as well. So I appreciate the work of his team. And with that, Mr. Abdusumili, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Good evening. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the information services support during these times. I'm very happy to share with you that our current services have been able to scale up and remain reliable during these unprecedented times that have put extreme demands on the systems. Just wanted to point out that about more than 90% of our one-to-one devices that have actually been given to students from grades 3 to 12 have been online in the past week and have been used. More than 95% of the one-to-one devices that we've given to students grades 3 to 12 have been active in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I just wanted to mention that in terms of usage. The other key point I wanted to point out, we actually have more than 24,500 active users coming in each day, accessing our enterprise systems and infrastructure. And the system has been able to keep up with that kind of demand and actually been very effective in scaling up. I want to take a moment here to thank each and every member of the Department of Information Services, not only for really providing extreme support, an enormous amount of work the last month, but more importantly for the work that they have actually done in terms of planning and in terms of building this infrastructure over the past 5 to 10 years. I mean, this has been a long process, and I think we are glad that we've been able to put that effort and time. Along with the existing systems, we did have to make a few tweaks to existing tools to fit the current demands. One example I want to point out is the use of Microsoft Teams to actually have video conferencing with staff and students. As an example, I want to point out that more than 3,750 staff members have been actively participating using team calls. And then just in the last 1 month, they've actually added up to more than 40,000 hours of staff hours in team meetings. We also have been seeing students actively using and participating in team video conferences with teachers. About 5,500 different students have actively participated, and this number is growing on a day-to-day basis. At this point, I want to point out that this has been successful, extremely thankful to the ITCs. The ITCs have been very crucial in actually taking the platform and the tools that we've actually presented, the tweaks we've been making in the last minute to adjust to the needs. And they've been doing an amazing job of actually supporting the teachers. Previously, they used to support a small set of teachers on a day-to-day basis. Now they're almost supporting 100% of their teachers, and most importantly, supporting students. I really sincerely want to thank the ITCs at each and every building that have been doing an enormous amount of work in making the change to the current model. Along with that, I also want to add a few more things that we are actually we have done to keep up with the current need. We've added phone bridge numbers to each school so that they can actually use it not only for internal but for external communication with community members as well. We've actually provided additional devices and cell phone services to staff so that they can actually step up and do certain functions that have never been done remotely before and now are actually being done remotely. We've also additionally added some remote access capacity to human resources and finance staff to be able to do the business functions that are extremely important and have to happen across the board. We added a few more things like the public live meetings that we currently are having the school board meeting happening on, but also a few other things like, the procurement office needed to have kind of live meetings as per protocol, and we've been able to support that. The last thing I want to point out in extension is that we've kind of taken the file servers and the files of all of the staff, and we are migrating them into OneDrive so that staff can remotely access all of their information from wherever, from anywhere, anytime, any device that they get access to. So this has been a huge thing. We've also added a few additional services, but one is a big service here is adding a secure document upload service that is supporting our online registration process and also supporting our procurement bids process that requires highly secure platforms to exchange sensitive information, both from parents and from students, as well as from our business partners. So thank you. I finally want to thank the board members as well for allowing us and helping us over the years to build this infrastructure. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Mr. Adusimili, and thank your team again. The next slide will speak to school options and transfer, and that's to provide you with a little bit of an update. Elementary option schools and primary Montessori specifically. The deadline to apply for an elementary option school or the primary Montessori, it has been extended to Monday, April the 27th at 4 p.m. This is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the families were not able to submit their original application and meet the deadline. So we're reopening the application to allow families additional time to apply. Families are currently able to submit the applications online through the online application portal. So the lotteries for these schools, for these programs will be held online May the 6th. The link to view it will be shared with families a few days before the lottery. Families are not going to receive lottery results the day of the lottery because we need time to validate the results. But families will be notified by email and or text, and they have until May the 13th to accept or decline the slot that's been offered. Next. This is a reminder of us providing updates to our school board action plan. One of the areas that we are focusing on is, in fact, the work sessions tied into the budget. So we, as you know, had earlier this week, the school board did hold a work session and public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 budget. Tonight, the board is scheduled to take action on the school board's budget, proposed fiscal 2021 budget. And then on May the 5th, there's going to be an additional work session and public hearing. For those who want to learn more about the budget, there is detailed information available online. Also, I want to note that for our APS stakeholders and the board, that the board has posted information on its webpage for how to provide input on the fiscal year 2021 budget. And that's in a way that complies with the current health guidelines, and it's intended to keep our community safe. So May 7th is the date for the school board to adopt the fiscal year 2021 budget. So I wanted to touch on the capital improvement plan and just share that on this slide, the revised schedule for completing the process for the fiscal year 21-30. Fiscal year 2021 through 2030 capital improvement plan is reflected on this slide. And as you can see, there will be a monitoring item on the May 7th school board meeting. So I want to speak a little bit to the planning unit data review pertaining to elementary school planning. Staff has been moving forward on the elementary school planning work for the 2021-22 school year, and we are now entering phase 2 of this process. And in phase 2, staff will be sharing planning unit level data with stakeholders for their questions and input, and this is before starting the work this summer. This is in preparation to adjust boundaries this fall for most, if not all, neighborhood elementary school. This data review takes place before every boundary process. With this planning project, staff is doing the data review early so that the community input on the data can be gathered before the boundary scenarios are developed. So this month, staff is looking at initial data with early reviewers that include representatives from FAC, the Advisory Council on School Facilities and Capital Programs, and the County Council of PTA. And then in May, this data is going to be shared with the broader community, and there's going to be opportunities for community members to share their input. In early May, we will have new information on APS Engage, and we will share via School Talk, ambassador updates, and other APS communication. The final data will be shared and published this summer, and then the boundary process will begin in the fall. We do want to let community members know that this may be a shorter process than usual since the data review portion is being done now. In addition, The school moves transition work has begun, and it's begun with internal staff across departments, and they're working closely to support the leaders of each school slated to have moves in August of 2021. This is when the new boundaries and school moves will take effect. And then the last slide is really pertaining to our policies and policy revisions. Last week, I explained our new process to obtain broad input on school board policy revisions and amendments under consideration. Yesterday, we posted 2 policies under review on the Engage page listed here. One is for admission and placement, and the other is options and transfers. These 2 policies will be available for stakeholder review for 30 days. So staff will review the comments and suggestions during this period before finalizing draft policies to present to the school board. So I thank you for the opportunity to provide superintendent updates. I am available for questions as well as members of the ELT team.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for the presentation. Colleagues, I'm going to invite you to provide any comments or questions you may have. And I will start with Mr. Goldstein. Do you have any comments or questions on the superintendent's updates this evening?
No, I don't. I thought they were very clear and comprehensive, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Dr. Cannon, do you have any questions or comments on the update this evening?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for that update. I know, again, work is going on and we're improving every day. I wanted to ask, I know that we have some data on students using their devices, checking in. We do sometimes hear from families about that they're worried that their students perhaps aren't working as hard as they could. This is actually, I see Mr. Adamuzili, but this was more of a teaching and learning question. I this is about at this point. And, I wonder, Ms. Johnson, if you all have any thoughts that that we could share on that student motivation.
Ms. Johnson, do you mind if I jump in? This is, hi, Bridget Loft. So the question is about student motivation to continue either if they're a secondary student. I'll give some examples. If they're a secondary student who's has a final grade of an E or a D, they have the opportunity to engage in some performance sort of assessment tasks to demonstrate their proficiency. So the incentive there is certainly to raise their grade. And then similarly for our students with C's and B's, the incentive is that they can raise their grades by engaging in some enrichment activities. Our students with A's have demonstrated mastery, and we certainly want them to continue to be engaged, and teachers are working directly with them. I think from our elementary perspective, we're really relying on that regular teacher check-in to help sort of build on the relationships that teachers have built previous to the shutdown, to help cajole and bring our students along who may be, struggling from a lack of engagement. We're also relying on the quality of the learning activities.
If I could just follow up, I think maybe I would just like to offer this more as feedback, maybe to think about, and because perhaps these are all A students, because the comment I'm hearing is without the incentive of grades, their students are not necessarily applying themselves. So I think that maybe that's just information, something we need to think about, that I imagine my colleagues have also heard from families who have reported being concerned that their kids aren't working hard enough.
Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Thank you, Ms. Loft. Ms. Van Doren, do you have any questions or comments on the superintendent's updates this evening?
I do. And they are in the teaching and learning and IS areas. So I have 3 comments and 2 questions. My first comment is a compliment, which some people heard me give before. I tuned in to the APS at home. I did that because I don't have internet in my house. So I wanted to see if I don't have cable. I have internet, but I don't have cable. And I know that that's true for a lot of people these days. They prefer to use internet. And I watched a book being read about Cookie. And I encourage everybody, if they want to get calm, to listen to Cookie being read. And I learned about phonemic awareness and something with your hands and syllables, and I'll get that down if I watch it again. So I just want to say thank you. I thought that was lovely, and I like the different ways you can access it. So thank you for that, and I will be tuning in because I found it very comforting. And I mentioned that I brought my teddy bears with me to watch the show. We watched it together. So thank you for that. I think it's a great start to developing our own tools. And then I just wanted to congratulate our IS staff for upping that connectivity. That is phenomenal. And I was really concerned about how often kids were actually going on, and it looks like they are. So that's fantastic. And I also wanted to thank you for the clarification about sequential learning. I misunderstood it. I thought if you were going from one class to the next that you were getting new content or at moving on now, but now I understand, and that was very helpful, and I hope that's on the website somewhere. But what you're basically doing is you're taking 5 semesters and compressing it within the time frame of 4 next year, correct? Okay, so I'll just take that as a yes. All right. All right, so then my question is mostly about the issue that Dr. Cannon raised, and that is motivation. I think what's the difficulty is for particularly middle school and high schoolers is if they've already got a grade, they may be perfectly happy with a C or a B, and they don't really feel they need to go to school anymore. And that's the motivational issue. And then also the organizational issue related to motivation, which is, how do I get myself organized or plan my day? And I think that's what a lot of parents are struggling with. So if they're not motivated because they're happy with a C and they really just don't know how to organize their day, I had talked before about people going to their teacher and then to their principal. But on this issue, when you have 5 teachers or 6 teachers and your principal has 400 kids in the school, who should the child be going to, and then the parent meet together to figure out how to get some support with that and how to, I think it's a great opportunity for kids to learn to be structured and motivated for when they go to college, but who should they go to if they need some support with that? Because it is a challenge that we're hearing.
Sure, I want to acknowledge that. So I've got a couple of thoughts. One is we do have some suggested schedules for students and parents to organize their days on our continuous learning webpage. So that's just another resource. But I do want to remind folks that students counselors are terrific resources because they do know each of the students on their caseloads. They've been working with them closely, and they can often sort of suss out where that motivation lag comes from. And so it is absolutely appropriate to reach out to your child's counselor to kind of troubleshoot this. And the counselor also, as I understand it, as I've been talking with secondary principals, counselors are also reaching out to students regularly to check in, and particularly students that perhaps had been on their lists before schools were closed. So yes, just as your teacher and your principal are resources, certainly the counselor is the resource. And I think the other thing,
how would you get to the counselor? Do you send them an email with school closed and you don't necessarily know their number and you would normally call the school and go through the switchboard? How do you reach the counselor if that's what you choose to do?
Right. So I do think, certainly you can email the counselors and they are attuned and adept at responding very quickly. If it's challenging to find the counselor's email contact information, which are posted on each school's webpage, going through the teacher, asking the teacher or the principal as well as a good resource.
Because some people may not know who their child's counselor
Sure,
is. So
absolutely.
you're saying
So,
by the default, go to one of the teachers or the principal for some
Yep.
connection.
And they can all connect you with the counselor. Can I speak quickly to the motivation piece? Because I think you're right.
It's a big issue.
Yes, exactly. And I think it is something that when schools are in session, we wrestle with. I think schools are structured in a way where we emphasize extrinsic motivation. I think that during this time, we have an opportunity to really work with our kids on intrinsic motivation and building that as a skill set. And I will say that some of the social emotional learning lessons that are being posted as videos in the elementary seesaw, and then for middle and high school, there is focus on setting goals, learning self-regulation, and thinking about what matters to you, and working on that intrinsic motivation too. So,
thank you. I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Van Dorn and Ms. Loft. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any questions or comments on the superintendent's update?
Yes, thank you, Chair Talento. I appreciate that. Continuing on with the learning aspect of our situation, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the intrinsic motivation as well, and just mention that for some of our students, this might be an opportunity for them to explore other creative pursuits, and they may be intrinsically motivated in the music or the arts, and didn't know, for students who may not currently be in band or an art class, whether or not there are opportunities for them to share what they're learning and be able to learn more as well, and help with them perhaps being intrinsically motivated in the creative arts.
Sure. So the expectation that, let me back up, the grading, the opportunity to improve grades applies across all classes. So not just your core classes, but certainly in the arts and in electives. And the expectation that teachers are engaging with their students regularly applies to the arts teachers and the electives teachers. So there's oftentimes our electives teachers are able to sort of pull some performance out of our students that maybe our students are reluctant to demonstrate in their core classes, because just as you pointed out, kids are choosing to take these courses, and so they often are speaking to their strengths or their interests. And so I appreciate you reminding us that electives teachers can be another resource in helping to support students build their resiliency. I'd say too, coaches have a particular connection, and after school club sponsors have know kids in a different way than perhaps teachers might know them, because there's that choice piece and that sort of intensity of effort and connection piece. So those are some other resources that parents and kids can reach out to in these times when they're losing their way.
Okay, I appreciate that, Ms. Loft. In addition to that, the last time we were all together, we chatted a little bit about our first and second graders and them not having one-to-one devices. Didn't know whether or not we are looking at any devices that may still be in the buildings, and maybe Ms. Johnson wants to talk about that, but didn't know if you guys had thought about that since the last time we spoke.
Sure, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I want to thank our IS colleagues, Jeanette Allen and Zach Pope. Sorry, for a moment I lost his last name. Have been working very hard to identify ways that we can sort of organize and remove those devices from the buildings and assign them to our students. And so currently we expect to be able to assign devices to our pre-K through second grade special education students. And this is to help further the delivery of accommodations and the modifications of curricula. And we're hoping to be able to have that end of this week, early next week, and then also working to deliver devices to our K to second grade L students. And that's where we are in the process. It does take some time to collect the devices, to ensure that they're wiped clean, both technologically and physically, and then assign them to students. So we're in the process of that effort.
And then my last question for the evening, for this portion of the evening, has to do with connectivity. And I was also very impressed with the presentation about the number of students who are logging on, and thank everyone in our IT department for working hard to keep our students connected. I have heard from some parents, however, that we have had the MiFi connectivity issues occasionally, where students may be running out of enough data or their data. And so I didn't know whether or not we have any update on that.
I'll pass the baton over to Mr. Adusumuli.
Yeah, Ms. O'Grady, I think we definitely are monitoring that. One of the things we can actually do is we have a portal through which we can look at the individual student usage and what's actually the reason for the consumption of that data as well. So one of the things that we've been monitoring was that along with the student, additional family members have actually been using that device and connectivity for their family as well. That has been one of the reasons, and along with certain things like the wireless signal not being strong in their location. So we've been very actively working with the county as well, because there's this digital equity aspect of the county and their focus on that one, also trying to help out with this kind of situation, and trying to say, how do we actually ensure that the families are not necessarily actually relying on the MiFi being provided for a student, but how can we provide them high-speed internet access and things like that? So there's a combination of things we are actually continuing to do. Like I said, number one, we have access to the individual data. We are looking at each and every individual case that we're hearing about and helping them out through the process. And along with that, we're continuously working with the county as well to, most importantly, take advantage of Connect Arlington infrastructure and build self-reliant capacity without having to rely on third-party vendors as we move forward. So
that's excellent information to update families. I know there have been some in the community have been worried about connectivity. So it's so great to hear that we're collaborating with the county to move forward and try to address that issue and address the issue of families needing access to Wi-Fi, even beyond what we're giving our students. So thank you very much for giving us some more information on that, Mr. Adusumili. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. I have just a couple of questions as well. But first, I just want to take an opportunity to really say thank you to on behalf of the board, to the interim superintendent and our DTL department and our IS department. Thank you for hearing our feedback. Mr. Adusumili, we are so grateful for the work that you and your team have done regarding connectivity, IS, the information you provided this evening on how many students are connecting. And Ms. Loft, I know that you and your team have really been trying to figure out how to hear what the community members are sharing with us and put that back out there so that it supports our students in their distance learning. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you because it is, we are, as I've been sharing with community members, we're learning real time how to implement this, and without their feedback, we can improve, and that's really our goal, is to support our students the best way that we can during this very unique time and circumstance. So I did have one question for Ms. Loft. If you could just clarify again what we are, what we are doing or what we will not be able to do for our students who are in non-sequential classes. So if they're going from biology or chemistry, like you mentioned, or an algebra class, a geometry class, algebra 2, can you share about that? Because I don't know if I understood well. I might have not caught it, and I just want to, if you could reiterate that.
And I do want to clarify, while at first blush, our high school math classes may not appear to be sequential. Algebra and geometry, for example, have some really different concepts and require different sort of ways of thinking about math. They actually are. They build upon one another, particularly as students move into Algebra 2, trigonometry, and pre-calculus and calculus. So math courses would be considered sequential. But the other example I gave of biology and moving into chemistry, those science classes, particularly in the high school, are sort of distinct in their content. The exception might be if you move from physics 1 to physics 2, of course. And the teachers themselves are certified to teach that particular course. So it's often the case that a biology teacher doesn't have the appropriate certification to teach chemistry. So that would be one of the reasons why the fourth quarter power standards in biology, it would not be appropriate to ask the chemistry teacher to address those fourth quarter power standards. That said, teachers do spiral a great deal, and there are skill sets that are sort of comprehensive across the discipline. So the scientific method, inquiry, reading charts and graphs, working through a hypothesis are all comprehensive skills that it would be appropriate for the chemistry teacher in September to continue to spiral back around to ensure that those kids coming to the teacher from biology have demonstrated proficiency and feel strong and secure in that skill set. Does that help to answer your question?
No, it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's actually very helpful. And I appreciate I appreciate you sharing that in math, even in some of the things that we would not assume are sequential, that they are. So for students in example like geometry, or someone going from algebra 2 to trig or statistics, they will have the ability to get some reinforcement of fourth quarter work from a prior course.
Sure. Yes.
That will be built into those courses. Excellent. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And then I did want to ask Mr. Adusumili a question about the access for the numbers shared regarding how many students are accessing our devices online. So first, thank you for monitoring that. I'm so grateful. I know that we've been asking a few questions about that in our weekly meetings. And it's exciting to hear that at one point, 95% of our students were accessing their devices over the last 2 weeks. I'm curious, do we have a system, or I think you have shared that we are doing something, or could you talk a little bit about the outreach that we're doing to students who aren't accessing the system, how we've been monitoring to figure out who these students are and what kind of outreach, so our community members know that even the students that aren't accessing, we are trying to do that outreach and make sure that they have the supports they need.
Yeah, I think the whole we've done this in phases actually, Mr. Lento. I think the first phase of outreach we did was when we did the trial run before the closure. We've actually ran a whole week of trial of having the devices go home and having the students successfully connect and make sure that they were able to remotely access the device. And that is what led us to identifying all of those students that need additional connectivity or connection service, internet services. So that's basically one of the things we have actually been doing. Now, this information we've actually shared with the ITCs at the student level so that they can know which particular students and which particular grades are the ones that are not able to connect or have not been able to do that. And that was during that time. And we're going to continue to do a very similar type of reporting as you move forward. It's actually going to be a combination of two things. I've heard some principals do amazing things of monitoring that data also and actually identifying students who are not actively participating and trying to have an individual IEP type of a plan with that particular family and students and actually working with that. So the systems are available. I've actually had principals reach out to me to break that data down by schools and actually send it to them. We're working to automate that process, and we will send those reports back to school so that they can have that information regularly, and they can actually, with the help of the ITCs and the teachers, be able to reach out to their families and then see what's happening. And we are right behind them to help them with any technical support.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. I know that y'all have been doing a lot of work. And again, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for everything that y'all are doing to support our students during this. Ms. Johnson, I think we're done with comments and questions, and thank you for the update this evening and for all of the information that you provided on your presentation. So we are now at our consent agenda, and I guess I'm making the motion on this. I forgot that we are virtual, so we're changing up a little bit. So I move that the board adopt the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second, Nancy.
Thank you, Ms. Van Doren. Ms. Elliott, as our school board clerk, would you kindly call the roll?
Yes, I will. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Dr. Kananen?
Aye.
Ms. O'Grady?
Aye.
Ms. Talento?
Aye.
Ms. Van Doren?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. We have two action items tonight. The first is the school board's proposed 2021 budget, and Ms. Peterson will has a brief update to get us started. But before I turn it over to her, I would like to share a summary of messages received regarding the budget. Since we are not yet able to take public comment, I did want to take an opportunity just to share with the community that we have been receiving messages on the budget, and I expect that some of these people would be coming where we in normal circumstances to our board meeting to speak during public comment. So I'm just going to share a summary of messages that we received since Tuesday at 5 p.m. because we did give a summary at that time during our public hearing. And these are messages received through today at 5:30 p.m. These messages were received to school.board@apsva.us, and it's about 28 messages received. We had 13 messages opposing cuts to crew. We had 5 messages opposing cuts to ELL staff. We had one message opposing the cuts to band music program. We had one message opposing the class size increase. We had 3 messages in support for staff compensation to include a step and a COLA. We had 2 messages supporting cuts to SciFacs, including reviewing teacher schedules. We had 1 message to support funding the planetarium. We had one message supporting elimination of FLES. And we had 1 message supporting the delaying of the Career Center construction. Again, these are as of about 5:30 p.m. today, so if you sent messages afterwards, they were not included in this. And if you sent messages to individual board members, they may not have been included in this unless they were forwarded to school.board@apsva.us. So I want to thank our deputy clerk of the school board and our communications liaison for providing that summary for us. And as I mentioned during announcements, all of the board members have full access to our IQ system where all these messages are available for us to view and read. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Peterson to provide us a brief update to get us started on this action item this evening.
Good evening, Chair Talento. I'm happy to present to you the recap of the interim superintendent's revised proposed budget. Just waiting for the presentation to pop up.
Do you see it, Ms. Peterson?
Yes, it's coming up right now.
Okay.
All right, does everybody else see it? That's the question.
I can see it. I'm not sure about our viewers at home, but I'm sure they'll be letting us know shortly.
Crossed and hope that they do. In the interim superintendent's proposed budget, we made a number of changes on the revenue side, which included decreasing the county revenue as a result of revised revenue projections, decreasing our federal revenue from Medicaid, reducing the future budget years reserve that was used in tiers 1, 2, and 3 and for textbooks in the original proposed budget, reducing the compensation reserve used in the original proposed budget, and then reducing reserves for changes that were made to reduce items in the budget, and then using additional reserves of $14 million to close the budget gap. On the expenditure side, we had a spring enrollment update. We cut all of the additions that had been originally proposed in the original budget. That was tiers 1, 2, and 3, plus textbooks. We added back some required items, EL, special ed, transportation, and other needs. And then we also added a $5 million contingency against further revenue loss. In addition, we provided a number of reductions, and you can see here they're summarized by strategic plan goal, student success, engaged workforce, and operational excellence. All told, those revenue changes and expenditure changes meant that our new budget total is $671.1 million. And we also presented to the school board 3 scenarios for their consideration. The first scenario with a step increase would leave a deficit of $10.5 million. The second scenario with a 1% COLA left a deficit of $4.6 million. And then the third scenario with no increase, no compensation increase, was a balanced budget. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Colleagues, do you have any clarifying questions before I call for a motion? And I will start with Dr. Cannon. Do you have any clarifying questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Van Doren, do you have any clarifying questions?
No, I do not. Thank you very much.
Mr. Goldstein, do you have any clarifying questions?
No, but just for everyone's edification, those people who are watching, we've spent many waking hours in the last week since the superintendent's proposed budget came out, asking questions, getting answers, figuring out ways to adjust this. So the fact that I'm not asking questions now means that I've asked a whole bunch of questions we all have in the last several days. So it's not like we're just, accepting this blithely. So I just wanted to make sure everybody watching understood that. So thank you, but I do not have questions for Leslie at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein, and it's a good opportunity to remind everyone that this budget was presented to us last Thursday for the first time. On Tuesday, we did have a work session, 2-hour work session where we went over this budget. We had a chance to review it over the weekend, and then we entered our public hearing, and we're now here today. So that's just to add on a little bit to what Mr. Goldstein shared. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any clarifying questions before I call for a motion?
No clarifying questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So colleagues, may I have a motion? Ms. O'Grady.
Yes, 1 second, please. Thank you. I move that the school board amend the interim superintendent's fiscal year 21 option 3 proposed revised budget with the following items. Add $2.3 million to eliminate a 1-day furlough of all staff, resulting in no furlough days for staff during the academic year. Add $60,000 for crew for transportation of skulls.
Ms. O'Grady, I apologize. I think that we amended a little bit or revised that draft motion that you're reading. Mr. Loomis does have it on the screen if you're able to see it.
Ah, that's very helpful. I do. Yes, I do see
Okay,
where there is a
thank
little
you.
change there. I do apologize. I'll start all over. Thank you very much.
We emailed, just so everyone knows, the clerk and I tried to email everyone what they would be reading, and we were trying it different this evening. So, and I know, Mr. Grady, you had to actually work a full day at work today, so I apologize if you and I didn't touch base on that. But
No.
the motion is on the screen, and then after you read this, we will have Mr. Loomis move to the next slide, which has the rest of the motion.
Okay, I do apologize for bringing up the incorrect motion. I'm happy to read it on the slide. I
Okay.
move that the school board amend the interim superintendent's fiscal year 2021 revised proposed budget option 3 as follows and adopt the amended version as school board's proposed FY 2021 budget. Restore the following items totaling $3,047,119 and 4.4 FTEs. Number one, 2.26 million to eliminate the one-day furlough for all staff, resulting in no furlough days in FY 21. $60,000 to restore crew transportation. $91,000 to restore the Adobe Creative Suite license renewal. $15,000 to restore band transportation. $84,695 to restore humanities project funding. $141,500 to restore half of the proposed cut for the non-renewal Communities in Schools contract, $325,557 to restore the 3.4 attendance specialist, $69,367 to restore the 1.0 administrative assistant for the chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. Reduce the $5 million contingency built into the interim superintendent's revised proposed FY 21 budget that is intended to offset any possible further revenue loss from the state and county by the $3,047,119 needed to restore the above items, leaving $1,952,881 in the proposed contingency. The school board also directs the superintendent to continue looking for additional savings as we enter and through fiscal year 2021. Some suggestions are consider an opt-out program for parents receiving paper documents in the mail, i.e. bus information report cards. Encourage the school system to look for other savings that could come from potential contract renegotiations with vendors and contractors as a result of the current economic crisis, and expand income brackets for extended day fees.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. Is there a second?
Nancy seconds.
Thank you, Ms. Van Doren. Colleagues, before I call for any amendments, are there any clarifying questions on this motion?
Sorry, this is Reed. Just go over with me when we'll be able to make comments on whatever final motion there is prior to voting.
Okay, so this is what I have laid out. Take clarifying questions at this time, and then I'll call for amendments. As amendments come forward, they will be seconded. Assuming they're seconded, we will have discussion on the amendments. Then we will vote on that amendment. They will either pass or fail. Then we will do any other amendments with the same process. They'll be made. We'll have a discussion after they are seconded, and then they'll pass or fail. And then once they have passed or failed, we will have discussion on the final motion as is or on the final motion as amended, dependent on the amendments that are passed. And in that time, you'll be able to discuss fully what has passed, whether amended or not, for discussion.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It really helps me to now I feel prepared to get us through this process. Okay, so Dr. Cannon, do you have any clarifying questions on this motion?
No, but I do have an amendment.
Okay, I will call for you momentarily. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any clarifying questions on this motion?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Van Doren, do you have any clarifying questions on this motion?
No, I do not.
Okay, great. Are there any amendments to this motion? Dr. Cannon?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to amend the main motion by adding $28,800 to restore Smart Notebook and fund it by further reducing the $5 million contingency by $28,800.
Is there a second? A second? Colleagues, are there any discussions on this motion before we act on it? This motion to amend.
I can speak to it, Ms. Talento.
Yes, Dr. Camden.
Yes, this is software that some of our teachers use in our system. Not all, but some do. I just feel right now, as I mentioned in our previous school board meeting or work session, I guess, teachers and staff are taking a we're taking a quadruple whammy with this proposed budget. And basically, I don't want to take some of the tools away from them when it's, something that they use as part of their workday.
Thank you, Dr. Cannon. Ms. Van Doren, do you have any comments or discussion on this amendment to the main motion?
Yes, thank you. I just want to comment that we've put in a budget question on this. We don't have an answer on that yet, and I don't have enough information. What we have initially been told is that there is a different software that can be used and some free software, so I will not be supporting this amendment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Van Doren. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any comments or discussion on this amendment?
I also feel like I need some more information regarding this item. As it was presented to us, there were a few people who utilize this tool. It's not widespread, but the people who do use it often. So I'd like some more information about whether or not we can meet the needs of those particular teachers with a free tool or some other device. And I personally am still unsure as to when we might return to classrooms. And so at a time when we are so tight on our budget, that's one small area where I would like more information before I vote to put it back in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. Mr. Goldstein, do you have any discussion or comments on this proposed amendment to the main motion?
Only to say I agree with my two colleagues' previous comments that I need more information about this. And just for everyone's edification, for those watching, there is a process, I'm sure a lot of people know, of board members putting in budget questions and getting answers. And of course, we've been doing that quite a bit since last week, and we put in a lot of questions. We don't have all the answers yet. There are a lot of other possible reductions, possible restorations that we would all like to make, but we're waiting for more information, before we do so. This is a good example. So I just need to get more information that, will be forthcoming the next few days. And this process is going to continue for the next, 2 weeks? Is that when our final adoption? Yeah, 2 weeks from now, May 7th.
Yep, but we do have a work session on the Tuesday prior, so we'll have some time to discuss it then.
Right. Okay. So the short answer is I need more information before I am able to support this.
Madam Chair, given that I have 3 colleagues who want more information, I think the best path would be to withdraw the motion and with the idea to be forthcoming, and then I can bring this amendment, and I can bring this amendment when we go to final budget in May.
Okay, great. And maybe it'll even be in the main motion, depending on what information we get. So
if you want to have it in the main motion, that would be fine with me too. I do have another amendment, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. So just for formality purposes, we are withdrawing the amendment to the main motion has been withdrawn. We are now moving to I'm now asking if there are any other amendments to the main motion. And Dr. Kennan?
Yes, I move to add $30,000 to restore TDM and funding it by further reducing the $5 million contingency by $30,000.
Is there a second? Second? Colleagues, are there any comments or discussion? Ms. O'Grady, do you have any comments or discussion for this amendment?
Could I speak to
Dr. Cannon, I forgot. I'm sorry. Because it's your amendment, you should speak to it. I apologize. I keep skipping that part.
No problem. This one is a successful program, and we have seen that staff benefit from it. It's good for them, health-wise even. And we did actually reduce TDM a few years ago, and we found that caused, we ended up feeling that we had to restore it as the new school year started. I would rather, at this point, not change this successful program.
Thank you, Dr. Cannon. Mr. Brady, do you have any discussion or comments on this amendment to the main motion, amendment number 2?
Are we
I
everybody or one at a time?
I'm going by one person at a time.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just trying to rotate through who gets called first. So now I'm Miss O'Grady.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Talento. At this moment, I'd like to get more information before I move forward to support this motion as well, Dr. Cannonen. So I'm going to refrain from supporting this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. Mr. Goldstein, do you have any comments or discussion on this amendment?
No, just that I'm in the same boat as I was with the last amendment. I just need some more information before I'm able to have enough information to decide whether to support or not support this motion. So, like I said before, hopefully that'll be forthcoming in the next several days.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Ms. Van Doren?
Thank you. I'm not going to be supporting this motion. I think that we are, in the end, going to be reducing our budget by somewhere between 8 and 10%. And I think asking or having us reduce this by basically the benefit is we're not eliminating the benefit, we're reducing it by $15 a month. The benefit is going from $60 to $45. And we're saving $30,000, but what remains in the budget is $190,000. So we're not eliminating the benefit. We are just reducing it for this 1 year to help close our gap. And I think that this is a wonderful benefit. It's been very useful to us, but I think we can make this minor adjustment at this time to get through the next year. So I won't be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Doren. I will share that I will also not be supporting this particular amendment. We are eliminating a lot of things in our budget. This one is being reduced. So I'm hopeful that in years to come, as our budget gets stronger and our economy gets stronger, we'll be able to restore TDM and grow it. But I'm grateful that it's only a reduction, I believe by just 25%. And so at this time, I do not expect to support this amendment for our budget process. Colleagues, I would like us to move on the amendment, and I would ask that our school board clerk, Ms. Elliott, take a roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. All in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Mr. Goldstein?
No.
Dr. Cannonen?
Aye.
Ms. O'Grady?
No.
Ms. Talento?
No.
Ms. Van Doren?
No.
Motion fails by a vote of 1 to 4.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. So I would now like to open up discussion on the main motion that was read by Ms. O'Grady. Colleagues, I'll start with Ms. Van Doren. Would you like to make comments or discussion on the main motion that was read?
I would, but are we sure there are no more amendments?
There was only 2 amendments this evening.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I do want to make some comments. We have done this with lightning speed. I haven't gotten much sleep in the past week. I don't think any of my colleagues have. We had 150 line items that we had to sort through and read through, and we got the information very quickly. Our staff, the principals, everybody got it. It was a real-time project. And I first have to tremendously compliment our interim superintendent and Leslie Peterson and her staff and the entire ELT for pulling together what is a pretty significant reduction in their budget and reconfiguring our expenses for next year. So I just really have to thank them for doing that and thank them for the support that they've provided us just for hours every day in the past week. So I'm incredibly grateful and impressed that we've gotten to this point. So I'm just saying thank you. And there are things I can certainly quibble with. If I'd had more time, I perhaps would have done or added or taken out some of the things on this motion, but in general, I'm going to be supporting it. And I feel truly blessed to live in a community where this is the greatest sacrifice we have to make during such a tremendous crisis, because there are other communities where they're struggling much more than we are. And I just really have to commend staff for bringing us such a useful budget at such a difficult time. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Doren. Mr. Goldstein, would you like to make any comments or discussion on this motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Just to be clear, these will be the final comments, and when our comments are finished, then we'll be voting on this motion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I also want to add my thanks to the superintendent and her staff who pulled a drastically revised budget together in a very short period of time and did so while maintaining the themes that she articulated, last week. And, largely it's been, I'm very happy with the way she did that. And because I also feel we need to protect our workforce and also protect what goes on in the classroom, because what goes on in the classroom is our bread and butter. That's our core mission, and we do it very well. So I do think we need to do that. Unfortunately, this motion is a mixed bag, and I wanted to vote on those items that we all agree on and not be forced into an up or down vote, for a mixed bag of cut restorations, some of which I support, some of which I think plan on an unrealistic timeline to return to normal. But I couldn't get support for separate motion. So accordingly, I'm not going to support this motion in total. But I want to be crystal clear about my intent and my preferences. I am against furloughing staff. Teachers, as Dr. Cannon said, are taking a quadruple hit in this budget. There is no step increase. There is no COLA to bring our scales into a more competitive position with those jurisdictions surrounding us. We have larger class sizes in this budget and also a one-day reduction in pay. The secret sauce of APS's success has always been low class sizes, high quality staff, and strong student supports. The backbone of all of that is our staff. We have to honor and reinforce our own laudatory words and their great work and not try to balance the budget on the backs of those primarily responsible for our enviable success. Eliminating the furlough day is a restoration that will benefit all students. Unfortunately, we don't know what fiscal 22 will look like when it starts in 14 months. So when we adopt our budget in 2 weeks, we need to be clear that making some cuts and restoring others now does not mean we will be able to follow suit next year. Second, I am in favor of restoring the administrative assistant for the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. We were very deliberate in accepting the recommendation of our consultant to hire a Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer and not just do it to check a box, which were the words of the consultant who recommended to us. Aaron Gregory came on board in January. He has no staff now, and unless this cut is restored, he will be a department of one for 14 more months. That is not my way of showing that we support his function and support an improvement in system-wide equity. This is a restoration that will benefit all students. I would love to restore all these cuts, and I fully intend to do so when our operations return to normal. I think we're facing a lot longer timeline, however, than we would all like before returning to normal. I want to read 2 quotes from today's Washington Post, front page of today's Washington Post. The first is from Diane Swank, who is the chief economist at Grant Thornton. And she says, pretending the world will return to normal in 3 months or 6 months is just wrong. The second quote is from Anthony Fauci, who's the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. And he said, I cannot see a return this year to what we consider normal. So with uncertainty in our future, I believe we need to take steps now to prepare for the beginning of a school year that may not be what we hope. Funding that is set aside for a situation that may not come to fruition will hamper our ability to shift funds to areas where they're needed the most. For example, as was mentioned at the work session earlier this week, if we continue to support extended day staff, we will need funds available to replace the 1 million or so per month that we are not getting in revenue while we're doing distance learning. So accordingly, I'll continue to adjust other pieces of the budget between now and final adoption on May 7th. But I want to point out one thing that we need now is more revenue. So on May 7th, I'll ask my colleagues to adopt two measures that will add revenue to the fiscal 21 budget. First, I will ask them to help me bring extended day fee brackets into alignment with the fee brackets for Montessori. Not the fees, but the brackets on which we calculate a sliding scale based on income. Right now, the top income bracket for extended day is a household income of $88,000. If you make considerably more than $88,000 a year, you pay for extended day as if you earn only $88,000. Median income for households in Arlington is nearly 40% higher than this. The current bracket structure is a gift to households who do not need it at a time we can least afford to make that gift. Second, I'm going to ask my colleagues to adjust fees at our pools so that APS does not end up in the red as we have every year while providing pool operations. I won't go into the details here, but I urge my colleagues to be open to an adjustment that is long overdue, acknowledging the need for more revenue at this critical time. That concludes my remarks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Dr. Cannon, do you have any discussion or remarks on the main motion?
Yes, thank you. So first, as my colleagues did, I want to thank Ms. Johnson, Ms. Peterson, and staff for all the great work. This really was difficult work done very quickly in a very dramatic change in environment from where we thought we were earlier this year. Ms. Talento, Ms. O'Grady, especially you two, thank you for getting us to this point and shepherding this motion through, and all of our colleagues for the hard work, as well as, of course, the community for weighing in. As I just said, this is not where we want to be. However, this is the environment we're in right now, and we're taking some tough reductions that we didn't want to take, that we know are not what the community wants, but are what we can do given where we are. I do appreciate Mr. Goldstein's comments and am very interested in those potential new ideas for raising some revenues. I think there may be some other ideas between now and May 7th, so I would encourage the community to continue to weigh in, and we will continue working to see if we can do more to provide what's most needed, and also do it within the revenues that we expect to have. So I will be supporting this budget because I do believe it is the best we could do given the environment we're in. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cannon. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any comments, discussion points for the main motion?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Talento. Like many of my colleagues, I know this is a very tough time for our community, and it's a tough time for our budget. None of us expected to have to come back and trim the budget like this, as much as we are having to trim it, and as quickly a period of time as we're having to do the work. With those necessities in place, as I looked at our budget and the new challenges before us, I put forth a few priorities. And the first priority was to support our teachers. They're working now just as hard and harder than they have been working when they're in the classroom, trying to meet our students' individual needs, coming up with online activities for our students. And so I think that they are really an important aspect of the community right now. And by supporting the teachers, I think it's important that we do not institute a furlough day. And I'm happy that this budget amendment or this proposal does do that. In addition to that, I think we need to support worry-free online learning in case we do not go back into the classroom this fall. I think our budget does do that. When we first looked at this budget, there was some suggestions of reducing the time of the ITCs, pulling out Canvas. And we've seen some movement in the direction to pull those out. And I think this proposal here does support our students with online learning in case we have to extend it into the fall. I also think we need to support our students' social and emotional learning experiences and ensuring that when they are back in school, they have access to continue some of the things that they have been missing in terms of activities, et cetera, I think is important by supporting activities like crew and band. Those I think will help bring our students whole in their social and emotional needs. And in addition to that, I think it is important to try to support equity as well. And I think that this budget motion takes us in the right direction to do that. I want to thank my colleagues for all the work that they put in to try to get to this point. I'd also like to thank the community that's weighed in, as well as Leslie Peterson, the members of her staff, the executive leadership team that helped come up with ways to get our budget to a manageable spot. And again, thank our teachers and our staff who understand at this point we are in very tough budget situations and who will continue to work this year if this comes to fruition without a step and without a COLA. So I will be supporting the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady.
Ms. Talento, could I make one more comment, please?
Yes.
I just wanted to point out to members of the community that online are answers to the budget questions from last year, many of which provide some background to the items, some of the items that we discussed this year. And I wanted to point that out. We had over 115 line items to review, and normally, as Mr. Goldstein explained, we have time to really review those and get feedback and put information up. And I'm sure that all of that is going to be backfilled, and maybe Ms. Peterson can reinforce that, because we did ask a lot of questions and we got as much information as we possibly could. But I just really want to reiterate how much work got done in an extremely short period of time. And I really wanted to thank Ms. O'Grady and Ms. Talento for being endlessly on the phone with each of us over the past few days to bring us to where we are today. But one, Ms. Peterson, if you can reiterate that answers to questions will be online under the 2021 budget area on the board docs, and I think through the finance page. And then my thank you to Ms. Talento in particular and Ms. O'Grady. But maybe Ms. Peterson can just reaffirm that.
Yes, Ms. Van Doren, thank you. Absolutely, all of the answers to all of the questions that we have been able to respond to at this point are on board docs. They are also on the APS budget website. They're available for anyone to see, and we will continue to provide answers to all of the questions that we have not yet been able to respond to, so that they can inform the school board for their adopted budget on May 7th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Thank you, Ms. Van Doren, for providing that clarification to the community about our budget questions. I very much appreciate it. I'm going to be supporting the main motion as well. I just will echo some of the comments. This has been a very unexpected budget process. It has moved very quickly. You know, even 45 days ago, we were in a very different place than where we are today. Our staff and our interim superintendent did an excellent job in finding a balanced budget, given the revised allocation that we were going to be provided from the county. And I'm grateful to my colleagues that we were all willing to support not putting forth the furlough day at this time. As I shared on Tuesday, I did have reservations about that initially because I am concerned about what's going to happen not next year, but the year afterwards. And if we are using to cover these line items in this motion, we are using the contingency that the interim superintendent, Ms. Peterson, had put in to support our budget if revenues come in less than expected for the county, or if we receive less than expected money from the state, which I think is fiscally responsible to do. But I want to acknowledge that, what this does is it does reduce that in contingency. So if it does come in less and we need more than $1.9 million to cover what we lose from the state or the county, potentially we will have to dip into reserves. And that means that we have less reserves to support our ongoing budget for fiscal year 22. So, I think, as I said on Tuesday, it's important that as we come out of this pandemic, that we're able to come out as strong as we can. A lot of people are going to be returning to our schools, staff, students, who may have experienced trauma, who may have experienced loss, who may have experienced illness. And we really need to be as strong as we can, in particular this year. So some of the things that we are restoring, the furlough, I think it's important that our staff get paid completely for next year. Crew transportation and band transportation, to the extent that we can support all of our after school activities to the best of our ability next year, because I don't know what will happen the year after, I think is really important. The Adobe Creative Suite really supports a lot of our CTE classes, and I think that's really important right now because we are eliminating field trips. I think having the Humanities Project funding in place is really bringing field trips into the classroom. So that is one of the reasons I'll be supporting that. The Communities and Schools contract, I actually am concerned that we're only restoring half, but again, as I shared earlier, there's a lot of things that are going to be eliminated. And so to the extent that we can reduce things versus completely eliminating, I support that. The attendance specialists really support our schools in ensuring and supporting a low dropout rate. And I think it's very important, especially as kids are going to be coming back from potentially unstable situations, that we have people supporting our system, our high schools, in ensuring that students are coming to school. And I agree with the comments that Mr. Goldstein shared regarding our CDEIO. I think it's important that we support that office as we are bringing in that position to really focus on the work that has been the focus of our board in trying to eliminate gaps, ensure that we are an inclusive and united community, and we have a lot of work in that realm. So I will be supporting this budget, and I want to thank my colleagues for the time they took over the last few days. We had a lot of discussions. We weren't all in the same place in the beginning. We're still not all there, but we were able to find something that the majority can move forward as a proposed budget. As others have mentioned, we have a lot of outstanding budget questions, many that were just put in over the last 48 hours. And so I want to thank Ms. Peterson and her staff for answering what they could up to this point. We look forward to getting some of those answers. So this may change on May 7th based on some of that information that we receive. But right now, this is what I'll be supporting tonight. And again, thank you all, my board and Ms. Johnson and Ms. Peterson and their staff for getting us to a place where I think we can move forward well. So with that, I will ask Ms. Elliott to take a roll call for this motion.
Yes, ma'am. Again, all in favor, please say aye, and any opposed say no to approving the proposed budget. Mr. Goldstein?
No.
Dr. Cannonen?
Aye.
Ms. O'Grady?
Aye.
Ms. Talento?
Aye.
And Ms. Van Doren.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. And again, our next budget calendar item is Tuesday, May 5th. We will have a budget work session prior to a public hearing on the school board's proposed budget, which we just passed the motion on. And then on May 7th, we will adopt our final budget. So our next and final action item tonight is the proposed amendment to the Sun Tribe Solar Comprehensive Agreement. Mr. Chadwick, I would like to turn it over to you if you could describe the item for us again.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just waiting for it to come up on the screen, and then I'll be happy to start.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. So as you know, we brought this to you last week, and there were a number of questions which we've answered through a school board follow-up, and I'm happy to summarize them in this presentation to you this evening. It is not forwarding, Dwayne, if you wouldn't mind forwarding it for me, please. Thank you. So the comprehensive agreement was awarded to Sun Tribe Solar in December 2018 for the provision of solar voltaic rooftop systems at 5 locations: Fleet, Jefferson, Kenmore, Tuckahoe, Washington, Liberty, and Washington Liberty. The comprehensive agreement requires APS to remove and reinstall solar PV roof systems if roof replacement or coating is required during the 25-year contract term. Staff selected the original 5 schools based on roof condition and solar capacity. Schools either had new roofs that would meet the 25-year contract term or were scheduled for roof recoating or replacement under the MCMM budget within the next few years. Sun Tribe Solar completed installation of 2 solar PV rooftop systems at Fleet Elementary and Tuckahoe Elementary in 2019. The 3 remaining solar PV rooftop systems planned for installation in 2020-2021, pending roof restoration projects, are Kenmore, Washington Liberty, and the roof replacement at Jefferson. The Kenmore and Washington Liberty roof recoating contracts were approved by the school board on February the 20th, 2020. Both projects were funded through capital bonds, which have already been sold. The Jefferson roof replacement project bid was actually opened on April the 20th this year, so on Monday. The age of the roof there is 32 years old, which is really approaching the end of life for any roof. The project will be funded through capital bonds, which have already been sold, and the estimated budget, which is now based on the successful bids, which were within budget, is $1.35 million. Just a summary here of additional costs that have been associated with indirectly to the Sun Tribe Solar Agreement. So at Fleet, there were no additional costs because the roof was a new roof and it was designed and constructed to accommodate the solar array. At Jefferson, we do need a new roof. It is 32 years old. Costs are $1.35 million, and that will be funded through capital bonds that have already been sold, and the bids received, the lowest 2 bids were within the budget. At Kenmore, we need new roof coating. The cost of that you approved is the total cost, including consultant fees, is $943,466. Again, that's bonded through capital bonds that already have been sold. You approved it on February the 20th, and it will extend the life of the roof by 25 years or more. Tuckahoe, there were no roofing costs, and at Washington Liberty, we need another new roof coating similar to the one at Kenmore. That will extend the life of the existing roof by 25 years. You approved the contract on February the 20th, and it is fully funded through capital bonds that have already been sold. So we will, under the amendment, we will add 4 sites: Abingdon, McKinley, Wakefield, and the new elementary school at the Reed site. These 4 new sites do not need roof coating, restoration work, or replacement of existing roofs. The amendment will also revise its language regarding the contractor's insurance, which specifies certain self-insurance obligations. The amendment also will remove Tuckahoe from the comprehensive agreement due to the State Corporation Commission rules that, in fact, the PV rooftop system at Tuckahoe is below the minimum size needed to receive tax relief. So the solar PV rooftop system has been installed and is operational at Tuckahoe, and SunTribe Solar will continue to provide operation and maintenance support for this solar rooftop system at no cost to APS under a separate comprehensive agreement. So APS will be receiving the energy produced by that array at no cost. The recommendation is that the school board approve change order 1 to SunTribe Solar's comprehensive agreement with the following items: add solar PV rooftop systems at 4 sites: Abingdon, McKinley, Wakefield, and the new elementary school at the Reed site. Revise language regarding the contractor's insurance, which specifies self-insurance obligations, and remove Tuckahoe from the comprehensive agreement. It will also authorize the school board chair to sign leases for 4 new sites, terminate the existing lease at Tuckahoe, and assign a new lease for Tuckahoe. School board chair's signature would be authorized for the following items: the new leases at the 4 additional sites, the termination of the current lease for Tuckahoe, and the signing of the new lease for Tuckahoe. The next steps will be for the school board to approve change order number 1 to the comprehensive agreement, which would be signed by the director of procurement. A new comprehensive agreement for Tuckahoe would also be signed by the director of procurement, and the Tuckahoe assignment and assumption agreement would be signed by the interim superintendent. This is, of course, per legal counsel. Just as a reminder of why we're doing this, over the 25-year lifetime of these solar PV installations, the estimated lifetime savings are about $7.2 million to the school board. The estimated lifetime solar production is about 118,000 kilowatt hours, and the estimated lifetime CO2 reduction is approximately 92,000 metric tons. That is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chadwick. We appreciate thank you for the presentation. Colleagues, are there clarifying questions? I'll start with Mr. Goldstein. Do you have any clarifying questions?
I do. Thank you. I think just one. John, thank you for the presentation. It was very comprehensive and clear. I think on that last slide, you're talking about the savings in kilowatt hours. I think I can't see the slide, but it's 118 million kilowatt hours or something like that.
Yes, I'd have to go back to read it.
Yeah. Can you put that in context for me? You know, how many light bulbs is that, or how many generators, or how, something like that, so I can understand better what 118 million kilowatt hours is.
As you should, and thank you for asking that question. I am embarrassed because Ms. Kathy Lynn did give me that information, but I don't have the time to look it up now. I'm hoping she may text it to me while we're continuing these questions, and I'll be able to fill you in on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No worries. All right. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
It's a lot anyway.
I hope so.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Dr. Cannon, do you have any clarifying questions?
No, I do have a motion.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Van Doren, do you have any clarifying questions?
I don't. I just want to thank Mr. Chadwick for answering all the questions I provided last week and with such clarity. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. O'Grady, do you have any clarifying questions?
No clarifying questions. I too want to thank Mr. Chadwick for making it clear that the roof at Jefferson is so close to the end of its life, and it has to be replaced soon in any event. And in addition to that, that we're going to be able to make such an important amount of savings and support green efforts by moving this forward. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. I do have a clarifying question. I think this is for Ms. Peterson. Ms. Peterson, I just want to confirm that I know that for most of these projects, or for all the projects that Mr. Chadwick outlined in his presentation that required any funding, the bonds have already been sold. And in the interim superintendent's budget presentation, it was shared that is that money, I guess the first question is that money from capital reserves that we're going to be using? And is that where we put our bond money? Or is that in MCMM?
The bonds that we sell are in the bond fund, and that's part of the CIP quarterly report that you get.
Okay.
So those funds are held separately. They're not part of the annual operating budget. They're not in the capital reserve. They're in a separate fund altogether and are used when the projects are approved by the school board. Yeah.
Excellent. That's exactly what I needed to know, and that confirms what the overall idea that I had. So thank you. So Mr. Chadwick, did Miss Lynn by chance get to text you back on that answer from Mr. Goldstein? You're on mute, Mr. Chadwick. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I just want to make sure there were no background noises or interference. She did not get back to me yet, but we will get you that information. I should be able to find it as soon as the meeting's over.
Okay. If you can just forward it to us as a follow-up question as well, that would be great.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask for a motion. Dr. Cannonen, would you please provide a motion?
Yes, thank you. I move that the board approve change order 1 to SunTribe Solar's comprehensive agreement 01 FY18 with the following items. Add solar photovoltaic rooftop systems at 4 sites, Abington, McKinley, Wakefield, and the new elementary school at the Reed site. Revise language regarding contractors' insurance, which specifies self-insurance obligations. Remove Tuckahoe from comprehensive agreement 01 FY18. I also move that the board authorize the school board chair to sign leases for 4 new sites, terminate the existing lease, and sign a new lease at Tuckahoe.
Is there a second?
Second. Monique.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. I think Ms. Van Doren, Ms. O'Grady beat you by literally a second. All right, colleagues, are there any comments or discussions on this motion before I ask the clerk to do a roll call? Dr. Cannonen, do you have any comments?
Just that it's really great that we're moving forward with more solar power in Arlington Public Schools and Arlington overall. This is something that took a lot of work. I want to point out, especially by former county board member Jay Fazette, getting us to the point of being able to do this. And it's been a lot of work over a lot of years, and it's a really important step forward.
Thank you, Dr. Cannonen. Mr. Goldstein, do you have any comments on this motion?
Just to echo what Barbara said, this is a big value in this community. I'm delighted that we are investing in solar. It's going to pay huge benefits for the community, for APS. And we adopted this initial, it was SunTribe. Echo, I'm getting an echo here. If not, I'll just continue. When I was the chair, and I was delighted to be the one to kind of be the recipient for kicking this off. So I'm fully in favor of this. thank John and his folks for all the hard work they've put in, because this is not an uncomplicated thing. So thank you. I'm delighted that we're doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Ms. O'Grady, do you have any comments on this motion?
I too just want to say I think that this is very good that we're moving in this direction. This is environmentally smart and educationally rewarding. Some of our students use this information to enhance their understanding of science and the environment. And so I'm happy to see that we're moving in this direction, and happy to know that when we replace a roof that is outdated, we can get even more back than we had bargained for. So I am happy that we're moving forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. Ms. Van Doren, I believe you're on mute. If you're speaking, do you have any comments?
No, thank you.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. So with that, I would like to ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Yes, ma'am. All in favor again, say aye. Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Dr. Cannonen?
Aye.
Ms. O'Grady?
Aye.
Ms. Talento?
Aye.
And Ms. Van Doren?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. We are now at new business. Board members, is there any new business? Excellent. I would like to thank Ms. Johnson and all of our executive leadership team for joining us this evening on our virtual meeting. We don't get to see them, but all their icons are laid out at the bottom of our screens. So I just want to say thank you for making yourselves available. Ms. Johnson, for all the work that you've done to get us here today with your update and the budget, and of course, Ms. Peterson and Mr. Chadwick. We look forward to engaging everyone again on Tuesday, May 5th. And just a final reminder that Ms. Van Doren will be holding our first virtual open office hours, which is very exciting, on Monday, April 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. And seeing that there's no additional—
Ms. Talento, may I make one comment, please? I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just also wanted to say a thank you to our legislators who all traveled to Richmond yesterday to finalize the budget and pass the budget, plus I think it was 37 amendments, several of them related to education, one of which allows us to hold our meetings virtually with greater ease, which will be safer both for the public and for each of us. So I'm very grateful to our legislators who had to physically go down and meet together to do that, to enable themselves to meet virtually. So we've catapulted Virginia forward in our virtual meeting abilities. So I'm very grateful to them for doing that. Thank you. I wanted to add that, and I look forward to open office hours.
Mr. Talento, if I may, I have the information.
Excellent.
The 2.5 megawatts for the first 5 schools is enough to power 237 homes for a year. And the 4 schools that were added, the 1.3 megawatts is enough to power 123 homes for a year. So altogether, that is 360 homes that would be powered by the energy that we will be creating per year.
Thank you, Mr. Chadwick.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much for that, John.
And please thank Kathy Lynn for us. We really appreciate getting that information tonight.
Well, and David Webb put a huge amount of effort into that too. It has not been easy, as Mr. Goldstein pointed out. It is very complicated, but we got there and we're good. And we're going to be generating all that power. So thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. So with that, colleagues, and seeing that there's no new business, but that of which we discussed, this meeting is adjourned, and I will see all of you hopefully soon. Have a good night.
Night.
Night.